Good afternoon, AG Engineering YouTube channel followers. I've been away a while again. Apologies for my very intermittent video posting, but we've got a little bit of an update and a little job to do today. Thanks to all those that put comments on the last very short video. That was for a gentleman I've become acquainted with recently who wanted his Gold Star front wheel sorting out, and he's happy with that job. So I'll take the video camera off the stand and I'll show you what we've been up to. For those that have asked what's happened with the A10 engine, well, it's unfortunately still sat there from last time, and hopefully get back to that as soon as I can. I am looking for some large journal 650 rods for that, if anyone can point me in the direction. Obviously more favourable prices the better, but they are quite a dear thing to acquire, especially for a project that may or may not work or may not get completed at the current rate. Another project on the go. It's finally made it to the ramp. The aerial's been put in the shed round the back. The 125 Honda I've been working on. I've not actually videoed much of this. I did the wheels a few years back, the wheel rebuilds, and I've gradually been sort of progressing it. It wasn't originally going to be a restoration, it was just going to be a tidy up, but it's slowly becoming more of a restoration, as you do with these things. I've been stuck for a while on doing the front mud guards. As you see here, these stays on this model go on the outside, whereas all the mud guards I was getting, they were on the inside. If anyone follows my Instagram channel, there's a little bit more on there under A_G_engineering, something like that. So I've made these stays up to go on the outside, and I made these braces, mudguard braces as well, made a press tool to put the dimple in. But again, in all honesty, the Honda didn't get many views. People are more interested in the British stuff, so this is a personal project. I'll show you a little bit more of it for a second in the garage. There's the engine for the Honda. I did the top end on this, oh crikey, 15 years ago, something like that, and I'll say when I was going to just tidy it up, and I got to the wheels and they were absolutely wrecked, and it was going to cost hundreds, and it wasn't worth it at that time. So now I'm doing a little bit more work on it. Yesterday I spent sort of soda blasting, trying a little bit of that, but it's very gentle, and then a bit of alloy wheel cleaner and scrubbing with some Scotch-Brite and that to get the cases a bit better. I'm going to take the side cases off and paint them as they would have been, and we're going to be replacing all the screws, but the middle bit's alright. It's only done a few thousand miles from new, but then it got abandoned in a damp shed somewhere. I've just been working on a Bantam wheel spindle, and we've got a little bit more Bantam work to do in a little bit. That was a wider one, probably for possibly a B40, I'm not 100% sure. A little bit wider, obviously more heavyweight forks than a Bantam. To just shorten it down a little bit and redo the grooves in there and sort out this thread. 1 year of these, this is 18 TPI. This year was 20 TPI, so I think one's probably unified and one's 20 TPI cycle. So I actually just sort of tidy these threads up and get the nuts to fit on that. And that's another little job. I'm going to show you the other one. So a couple of little jobs on here. We've got over here, we've got a crank lever for an old, was it Atco? I think it was Atco mower. I don't remember now, might have been Ransom's. I've got to alter that. Wants lengthening and the angle changing so that it's in the right sort of position for cranking it without breaking your arm. I did that a little while ago, pushed it a little bit because it fits in the front on sort of a peg across, but that's one I'll do off video. Bantam again, wanted a, that's between the crankcases, the dowel there, new dowel making slightly differently. And this is the main job for today. I'll just zoom in a little. Right, these don't have an oil seal of any type on there, so it's reliant on the fit of that kickstart shaft in there. So you get a little bit of oil weepage. I think you get a little bit out of there, where the gear changes, and a little bit where the kickstart is. This chap wants an O-ring seal fitted in, literally just an O-ring, but you can't just put an O-ring on there and then squash it up, because it gets squashed out and the kickstart lever stops returning and things. So there's various ways of doing this one. You could literally get yourself a deburring tool, I think, and probably whiz round it with, whiz round it with one of those, put yourself a V on it, a bit of a chamfer, and find yourself a thin O-ring. You could bore in there and put an O-ring. There's not a lot of room to put a seal. Possibly could find one, but he's happy with just an O-ring, just reduce it down a little bit from what it was doing. So I'll get this set up in the mill in a little bit, and I'll show you how you hold it. Again, if you've got a big enough lathe, you could probably put it on a spigot on the lathe and clamp it to a faceplate. There's various ways of doing it, but I'll do it in the mill in the same way as I've done timing cover seals in the past. So I'll get that one set up now. Measuring the shaft, that's, what's that, 22.378. I'm going to try and stick to stick to imperial O-rings if I can, and just been looking through. That's a BS212 O-ring there, which is the right sort of fit for the shaft, but it's a bit fat. I want a thinner one. And looking through the chart on here, this is off the net, just super sealed off the net. It's quite a good reference. I went through there and I got to what was it, BS 020 on there, or an R2087, which is 21.95 ID, 1.78 cross section. So that's 7/8 by an inch on there, but I haven't got one. So I'm going to get some of them ordered. They're pence. Probably a quid for about 30 or more or something on the net. So I'll get some of them ordered, but in the meantime I've got an emergency O-ring kit somewhere. Let me just go and find that. This is an emergency O-ring kit, or an O-ring splicing kit, for those of you not familiar with these, and you get a kit of bits to make up O-rings, and you can make oddball O-rings that don't actually technically exist, although there's more O-ring versions than there are stars in the sky. So there's big fat O-rings, They're sort of 8mm cross section and 6mm, and then some of your imperial sizes. So we've got 1.78 O-ring cord there. I could actually go thinner. There's a smaller one than that, 1.6 there. If I wanted to, you go really tiny. But I'll try and keep to a standard O-ring so it's easily replaceable in the future. So I'm just going to make that up. There's a little block you get for cutting the ends square, and then you glue them together through it as well. If the O-ring will go round, it probably won't in this case. So we're back in a moment when I've made one up. There's a couple of the O-rings we want made up. The first one ended up a little bit on the small side. I mean, I'll just wrap it round, the O-ring cord round the shaft, and sort of guess it. You probably calculate the length, well you can. But on that, if I just check it, we're looking on that slot there, and I do a sort of medium pull. I'm about an 019 O-ring. How this works is you put the appropriate cord in the slot and select the little sort of pins to pull it on. So that's about an 019. And then the next one I made just a couple of millimetres longer on the cord, and a medium pull again. I want a 020020 on there, so that's about right. And it's surprising how strong they are, but there's a caveat to it. This application I wouldn't normally use them in, where it's a rotating seal. I'd use this if it was in like a compression, it's sitting in a groove and you're sealing a couple of mating faces or something like that for this type of emergency O-ring kit. Not really for rotating seals, although you can get away for it for a while in industry when you're in a pinch. There's our O-ring in place in the shaft. It actually almost sits in that little, there's a little tiny undercut at the end there. It almost sits in that. I don't want to alter the shaft in case we create a weak spot. And it's just slightly, ever so slightly back from the edge of the metal flange there. And as it says, it sits in. You can see that on the camera. It's making it sit proud of the metal of the casing there, and we don't want that. We want a little the tiniest little bit of compression, so that the kickstart's still free to rotate. If the kickstart went on at that, the compression of the O-ring would be that much, even that little slim O-ring, that the kickstart would become lazy. So we'll set this up on the mill table now. Simple ways to set up for this. In this case, the R32 collet chuck with the kickstart shaft held in the collet, and then I can just offer the case up, and I know we're square and concentric, or close enough for a Bantam. And these you'll have seen before when I do Triumphs. All we need to do is set these little machine jacks up. They go into the existing place where the Allen screw would be, but the other way up, and allow you to adjust through the hole to get everything level. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time setting this up off camera, and then we'll come back. There's a little setup, 4 supports, one at that corner as well, a couple of clamps, we're only taking a slight little bit off, and we're in line and we're vertical. I'll swap this ER32 collet holder out now for the boring bar. If you've got a big end mill or something that was close, you could do it with that as well. That's the boring head set up. I've put a little faint blue line. That's just where the witness mark is. You can see that. Of the kickstart shaft where it's rubbed up to. And I want to go probably about half the way across there with my O-ring groove. I think that should just about give us enough room for the O-ring to squash into. So I'm going to make a little start and touch off, and then we'll see where we go from there. Right, we said we are going to be using them 020 O-rings, where the little blue mark is, just up there, and we're at 1.78 cross section. So I will go down 1.5 millimeters. That'll give us a little bit of compression, but not too much. I'll just try the O-ring in place as I go as well. I've got my cross. I'll zoom in a fraction. I've come across to about halfway on that blue line. There. And all I'm going to do, I'm just going to plunge down at that with the boring bar. Let's go. I've got my quill DRO set up, and when I touch I'll zero. Like that, and we're taking a fairly even cut all the way round. Yes. Half a millimetre. This is at 1 millimetre. I'm just going to stop and test. At that we can see it's sticking up probably about halfway. Keep going. One point 3, 1.4, 1.5. And there we are in position with the O-ring, and that is just sticking proud. Just compress it with my nail there, and that's as much as I'm going to do. I'll try it with the shafting. I'll just drop everything down. We've got our O-ring on a shaft. It just presses in there, and it's just got a little bit of spring. It's hard to see that on the camera. If I press it, it just sort of squashes into the groove, and there's a little tiny bit of, oh, there it is, dropped, little tiny bit of spring there. And if I push down, I'm still on the metal work there. Just the slightest bit of compression, not much at all. Hopefully that should be sufficient to provide enough seal compared to no seal whatsoever. Not the ideal solution. Ideally you'd want a proper garter seal in there, but I think it'll work. So that's that one done. Little Bantam oil seal for the kickstart there. I'm sure there'll be more than one person interested in this little project, and he'll be trying it himself. Hello Dean, hope you're well. I'll nip up and see my mate in the week. Today's Sunday. I'm at work for the next couple of days, so it'll be Wednesday. I'll nip and see him with these few Bantam bits. He's the one I did the Tiger Cub exhaust port for about a year or so back, and that's still going well. I'll see if I can get a photograph of it, and some of his other bikes. He's got a little collection of his own going on, and hopefully we'll see you on the next video. I won't say when, you just have to watch out for me popping up unexpectedly. I will be doing some work on the Honda. Let me know if you're interested in that. I know some are, some aren't. I do need to pick that BSA engine back up again. I was just looking at some rods on eBay, but yeah, it's a bit more than I want to spend on con rods, so I've even had daft thoughts of doing billet con rods. Yeah, it's probably never happened knowing me. Right, I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one. Bye for now.